Regulations are boring. They are sometimes boring by design and almost always boring when examined. There are some regulations that are not boring, but those are a small minority of the lot. Overall, regulations are a dull part of a dull system, a system that one might view as analogous either to scaffolding or to binding. President Trump views regulation as the latter. Since taking office, he's boasted frequently of slashing regulations, often exaggerating the extent to which he's done so. In an attempt to make his regulation slashing interesting, Trump on Thursday participated in an event meant to visualize the growth of regulations in the American government and, further, his efforts to eliminate that red tape. The result was Trump standing next to one small and one giant pile of paper, a giant pile which our obsessive analysis reveals as almost certainly too giant to accurately make Trump's point. Here's how the White House press reporter on duty today, the pooler, in the vernacular, described Trump's props. You can see them in the photograph above. On the far right side of the room were two stacks of white office paper. One was labeled 1960 and was about shin high, the other was labeled today, and around the same height as your pooler, 6'3". When President Trump saw the stacks, he quipped, "That's a lot of regulation." Later, he explained that in 1960, there were 20,000 pages of federal regulations, compared to 185,000 pages today. There's one bit of context worth pointing out. America is much bigger now than it was in 1960. That year, the country's GDP was about $3 trillion in 2009 dollars, compared to about $17 trillion now. The population was about 179 million, compared with 332 million. That sort of growth might be expected to similarly see some growth in regulation. It's also worth noting that the page is a weird unit to use. A sheet of paper could consist of one sentence reading, "Everything is illegal," and have more of an effect than 1,000 sheets detailing purchasing processes for new Homeland Security vehicles. But, this is the unit that's used and, as you can see from the photos, 185,000 pages is a lot of pages. But is that actually 185,000 pages? ProPublica's Scott Klein was skeptical, based on the image used in the New York Times story about the event. It seemed to him like a lot more than that. President Trump said his administration was answering a call to action by rolling back regulations on environmental protections, health care, financial services, and other industries. https://t:/b6v2evopic.twitter.com/y5heujegbg NYT Politics, Ethnic Politics, December 15, 2017. So we set out to find the answer. First, we need to know how big each of those stacks of paper is. From here on, we use pile to describe the two overall groups of paper and stacks the columns that they contain. We assume that each stack is made up of standard-sized sheets, which in the United States are 8.5 by 11 inches. Since the camera distorts the size of objects depending on where it's located, we measured the base of each visible stack and compared it to each one's height. Since the two piles, call them 1960 and today, are made up of stacks that vary slightly in height, we took an average.